Dynasty rookie ranks. Let's look at them. Let's update them. We're going to go through the top 78 players for Dynasty rookie leagues, and we're going to do it with the help of Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton. Time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and no, Cal Quantrill, I was not in that parking lot. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the sports have wound down, there's not as much going on, but FanDuel's got stuff for you. Every day, every customer, you get something. It is either a bonus or a boost for every customer, every day, all summer long. Go to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Right now. Do it right now. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we're available on all platforms. I'd like a single bang. I'd like a double bang. I'd like a thumb. I'd like a subscribe. You can also go and tell my wife happy birthday. It's her birthday today. So you can go and leave a comment on this video. You can go post it on my Instagram, whatever. You can tell her happy birthday. I'm sure she'd appreciate it. All right. Here we are talking Dynasty rookies. That's what we're about. That's what we're going to do. Straight after the draft, we did a top 90 Dynasty rookie ranks, which went down to about tier 13. I have pulled that back to the top 78. After watching Summer League, going through the numbers, adjusting team fits, all that sort of stuff, there's always going to be adjustments. There are some players who moved 2, 3 tiers, some that moved one, some that moved one spot within a tier, and whatever. There's also a small change to how I've approached this. In the past, the last ranking I did was exclusive for category leagues. This one, I've done it as a blend between category leagues and points leagues. And as a general rule, I don't think that is a good way of approaching individual rankings. I think that loses a lot of nuance. But I've sat on this for a while, and I've thought about it. And I do think that for a dynasty league, a blending between the two, when there is so much variance and improvements in percentages through careers, when there is so much game to game, year to year, week to week, whatever it is, variance in the low volume stats, steals and blocks, which, let's be honest, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, they're probably the 4 categories that have the biggest difference in influence between points leagues and category leagues. So if I put a blend between the two in terms of rankings, I think it gives a better idea of more stability in the player's valuation. Trying to take some of the variance out of the entirety of the category league skill changes, which are the percentages and the low volume stats, and just give us more of an idea of how we can view these prospects. It's not perfect. Nothing's ever going to be. We're trying to project 3, 4, 5, 10 years into the future with these players before they've played a single NBA game. But I do think that just having a little bit of a blend of a points league versus a category league, and again, we're talking tiers as well. So you might have 8 guys in one tier, where in a category league, the guy might sit at the top of the tier. In a points league, he might sit at the bottom. But the idea of a tier in any sort of drafting format is you can look at all those guys in that group and make an argument that you would take any of them above the other one. I've got them ordered in a numerical list because we all love ordinality. I love that word. We've all got them in that list, but the idea of a tier is like, oh, if you came and told me that you like player 12 better than player 9, I'd be like, fine. And if I told you that, assuming we had the same idea on tiers, you'd go, I wouldn't do it, but it's defensible. And that's how we're looking at this. And that, again, helps to improve some of the variability between league sizes, which is also important in rankings, category formats, which categories you use, points leagues, points formats, all that sort of stuff, to put it into an all-encompassing list. Don't try to be too precise when looking at Dynasty rookie ranks, because, again, it's very hard to be precise for what's happening for the next week or the next season, let alone the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. So we're going to have more of a broader range with a broader range of potential outcomes. All good? Makes sense? It should. I hope it makes sense. All right. So let's get in. Let's bang on. We'll start. Last time again, we started at number 90. We're not starting at number 90 now. We're starting at number 78. And for the vast majority of these players that are on this list, they are guys who are either on full-time NBA contracts, two-way contracts. There's like 2 or 3 guys that aren't, who I still believe can be useful NBA players that I've included on this list. But a lot of the other guys that I wasn't sure if they were going to get Exhibit 10s or two-ways that have it at the moment, I've sort of culled those guys out and made those adjustments towards the back end of a roster. This is tier 10, so we're only going 10 tiers deep here. At number 78, Alex Ducas, who's on a two-way with the Thunder. He was 85. He moved up to 78. We're going to fly through a lot of these guys here. Number 77, Brandon Carlson, who was number 90 last time. He was the final guy that made the cut last time out. I was impressed by his shooting ability and how he looked at Summer League for the Raptors. I've moved him up to 77. Blake Hinson for the Lakers, he was at 73. He has moved down to 76. That's not because of anything that Hinson did wrong. His three-point volume was really strong. It's more about other guys moving around. 75 is Riley Minix. He's one of these players who does not have a guaranteed deal at the moment or even a roster spot at the moment. He is with the Spurs on an Exhibit 10. I had him at 71. He's moved down to 75. Zion Pullen, I had at 76. He's at 74. He's on the Heat on a two-way. And then Quentin Post, I had at 68. He's on a two-way with the Warriors. I've moved him down to 73 here. He's in that same sort of range that he was before. All of these guys in tier 10. It is also important for you to understand how I come about these rankings. There is a level of subjectivity. What I did with the first lot of rankings was have my complete rookie draft board heading into the draft, and I used consensus draft valuations as well, because I'm not just taking my own opinion into consideration. There was my opinion on the rankings of the players. There was probably 50 other draft analysts' opinions, and that was all boiled down to a number. Then there was the actual spot that those guys were picked. Then there's the age. Then there's the fantasy stats translation. All those things were put into a number, ranked, tiered, done that way. What I did do in this one is change my draft board. Now, I'm still going to have my pre-draft draft board because that will always exist in perpetuity. But after seeing some guys and their fits and seeing how they were used in Summer League and how they played in Summer League, I made adjustments to that list, changed some of the weighting of where I'm putting pre-draft analysts' ideas, and just putting that in to give us our Summer League ranking formula. And that's where we're at. All right? So just so we're aware of how that stuff is going to fit, I think. Heading into the next bunch, we've still got a couple more of the tier 10 players here, and one of those guys is Judah Mintz, and much like Riley Minix, he does not have a roster spot at the moment. I do think that he can get there. There's a lot that he needs to iron out, but when you've got a really strong singular skill, and that's drawing free throws, that's something that's going to intrigue us, because if he ever finds a way onto a roster, think of a guy like a Jordan Nwora, for example. I know Nwora was drafted, but his ability to score and get good usage enables that when minutes are there, you are interested for fantasy. And Mintz has a lot of problems, but if he's ever able to get into the NBA and find a spot on a bad team, shout out to Brooklyn, for example, who just signed Killian Hayes today for some reason. But if Mintz was to get there and get a two-way and get converted and start 10 games at the end of the year, we get interested because of that free throw rate. There's no other player like David Jones, comes in at number 71. He's on a two-way with the Sixers. I had him at 63 last time. He has dropped down mainly for other guys jumping up. And then to finish off tier 10 is Jesse Edwards, who's the two-way big man for Minnesota. I had him at 72 last time. He's at 70. Fine. I don't really think that he's a huge level prospect, but whatever. Tier 9. We're starting tier 9 here. Number 69, Giggity, is one of the Joneses in Sacramento, Isaac Jones. He's on a two-way deal. He didn't do anything to get me massively interested, but whatever. Number 68 is Trenton Flowers, who was at 69 last time. I still do have some faith that Flowers is going to catch on. It hasn't happened yet, but I do have some faith in him. And then one of the bigger rises I thought was Dennis Jenkins, who has only moved from 74 to 67 in terms of Dynasty rookie ranks, but I jumped him up my actual draft board about 25 slots. I thought he looked better than Marcus Sasser on that Pistons team. And as a solid enough point guard, think of these guys like Jacob Gilliards and Jordan Goodwins and these sort of players as two-way, even like a Saban Lee, like two-way point guards who, when they're in the NBA, Scottie Pippen, just have an ability to look okay. And I think that's sort of where Jenkins fits. So he's in there at tier 9 at number 67. To finish off tier 9 and then start tier 8, number 66 is Cam Spencer. I think his shooting is real. Part of the reason why Spencer is down at 66, I had him at 60 last time, so it is a drop. But again, it's not that I necessarily moved Spencer down, it's that I moved other guys up. Part of the reason is that Spencer is old. Like, he is old. He's like 24 and a half, I think. And outside of shooting threes, which I think he's going to do really well, which will give him a pretty significant role, I'm not sure what else he's going to do in the NBA. And a guy that, best case scenario, I think hits 2 threes a game with not a lot else, doesn't have very high upside. But he is there in tier 9 at 66. Number 65 is Antonio Reeves of the Pelicans. I had him at 67. He gets a bit of a boost because he does have a full contract, but the minutes are just going to be sparing. He's old, and I'm not sure he's any sort of dynamic player. 64 is in Farley Dante. I had him at 57. I wasn't super impressed with him. I thought Orlando Robinson outplayed him. Now, the Rockets didn't sign Orlando Robinson. He has gone to Sacramento, so that's something to watch. In Farley Dante as a two-way guy, there's some interesting parts to his game, but overall I've dropped him down to 64. I had Anel Traore at 62 last time. He's at 63. He's on a Lakers two-way. Didn't massively impress, but I liked some of his pre-draft numbers. And then at 62 is Harrison Ingram, who played for the Spurs, but on a Spurs team that lacked a lot of talent. I don't think that he massively stood out or anything along those lines. He was at 56 last time. Now he is at number 62, and that rounds out Tier 9. To start off Tier 8, we've got one player, Kevin McCullough. We'll get more Tier 8 in a second. Kevin McCullough in Tier 8. He was at 54 last time. I've dropped him down to 61. He's an older player. I'm not really sure the offense is going to be there. And again, it's mainly due to the factor of other guys jumping ahead that he sits where he currently does. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. We all know that the playoffs for most sports are over. There's not a lot happening, but things are going to start. NFL preseason's coming. NBA over-under totals are out on FanDuel. You can go check those out. We have got Major League Baseball, WNBA. The Olympics are starting. All of that is there. And FanDuel's go, well, we know it's summer and things have slowed down, but we're going to give you something just to boost you back up. And boost is an operative word because every day, all summer, every customer is getting either a boost or a bonus. That's every day for every customer, a boost and a bonus. If you want to go in there and look at the over-under total wins for the Grizzlies, for example, and think, geez, that seems a little low. Well, you got it. And you're going to have your boost or your bonus to get in there and use it over on FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com. Head across there and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, so let's take a look now. But before we do, don't forget, Locked On Sports Today, live YouTube channel. Shows running 24/7 with experts who know what they're talking about. Whatever sport it is, whatever college conference it is, whatever team it is, we're going to have the most important things running over on Locked On Sports Today, live 24/7 channel. And if you're watching this here on YouTube, we'll link straight after it and it'll take you across it. You can check out what we're talking about instead of listening to Skip Bayless prove that he knows nothing. Shout out in the opposite direction to Skip. Let's look at the rest of Tier 8 after Kevin McCullough started out Tier 8 for us. Pele Larson, who I had at 65 last time, he comes in at number 60. A little bit of an older prospect, but I thought that there was a little bit of playmaking upside that I saw from him in that Miami team. Still nothing that gets me super interested, but he's there. Number 59 is Isaiah Crawford. I had him at 45. Now, his numbers at Louisiana Tech were really interesting. He had some knee injuries. I hoped he would get drafted. Part of the reason that I have dropped him down is that I saw that he didn't play well for Sacramento, but he was also deprioritized in a team that wasn't particularly strong. And that to me is not a great sign. I still do believe in some of the underlying skills, but maybe the body can't handle it, and maybe the step up of competition sort of found him out a little bit. I'm not going to write him off at all, but he did get a drop down. Number 58 is Anton Watson for the Celtics. I had him at 64 last time. 64 last time. He's moved up to 58. I thought he looked pretty good. In Summer League. Again, it's a different context because that team wasn't super strong. But I do think that when we talk about an Anton Watson, there is a chance that he can develop into a rotation guy. 57 is Ariel Hukporti. I had him at 52 previously. I thought he was fine. I thought he looked pretty good. He was big. He set screens, but I do worry that he's going to be sort of almost typecast into a role that doesn't deliver huge fantasy numbers. But, there is a bit of a drop-off there. It's not massive. Continuing in Tier 8, number 58 is Enrique Freeman, who I had at 47 last time. I thought he was solid enough. We didn't see the gigantic stats translate across the Summer League, which I wanted to see as an older player who put up big numbers for Akron, so that's why I bumped him down. And then at number 55, it is LeBron James Jr., who I had at 58 last time. He's at 55 this time. I think the Bronny's defense was enough for me to go, yeah, look, he is going to get minutes at some point, probably not this season. Can he ever be a starter? Maybe not, but probably not. The shot is the key part of it. Could he extend past his first 4-year contract? It's really debatable, honestly, but I thought the defense was enough to say, yeah, you have a skill that can stick. So he's moved up from 58 to number 55. Still continuing Tier 8, it is a really big tier because these guys, there's not a lot that distinguishes them there. Number 54 is Reese Beekman, who's on a two-way with the Golden State Warriors. He was at 53 last time. Justin Edwards, I moved up from 61 to 53. Not that I thought that he was super impressive at Summer League, but I thought the body and the size made sense, and that is a position of need. 52 is PJ Hall, two-way on the Nuggets. He's an interesting shooting big man. They do have a bunch of centers, but their forward depth is pretty weird. So I've moved him from 59 to 52. Tristan Newton, the point guard was from Connecticut, now in Indiana. He's dropped from 49 to 51. I thought he was just fine. Just fine. It's summer league, like he was all right, but not much changes there. Number 50 is Jalen Bridges, the two-way guy from the Suns. He was at 55 last time. Unlike an Isaiah Crawford with the Kings, Bridges did direct himself to Phoenix on the two-way, and they used him in summer league, which to me, again, is a good sign. I love the way he shot. I hope that he's able to get minutes and get converted to a full-time contract. I could very easily see Bridges actually into the next tier in Tier 7. And the same goes with the guy at number 49, Kashad Johnson, who I had at 66 last time, one of the biggest risers, because he was one of the most impressive players at Summer League. I wasn't overly enamored with what Johnson did in college at Arizona, but he just looked on a different level to most of the players playing in Summer League. So even though he's a two-way guy, we know the Heat have absolutely no problem using their two-way guys, converting their two-way guys, extending their two-way guys. So Kashad Johnson has moved all the way up to number 49, and he is in Tier 8 for Dynasty Leagues. There's only one guy left in Tier 8, and that is Melvin Ajinça. I don't think Ajinça is coming over this season. He was at 51. He has moved up to 48. That's, again, not because I deliberately moved Ajinça up, mainly because other guys fell and some of the changes in the formula. I'm not super interested in him. In fact, even though he sits there at the top of Tier 8, it's a pretty big gap between that and Tier 7, and he could easily be moved down to 55 or 57. That one doesn't sit perfectly well with me. To start, Tier 7. Number 47 is Oso Ighodaro, who I had at 50 last time. He, again, not sure the overall upside is there, but he flashed passing from the center position. The Suns might have a need for that, especially as a small ball guy, which I'm interested in. Number 46, and he was 46 last time, is Jamal Shed. Basically, the things that I thought about Shed, really good on-ball pressure. I worry a little bit about some of the size and the shooting, and that's sort of what I saw at Summer League. To me, that overall caps his upside, but he sits there at number 46 in Tier 7. Number 45 is KJ Simpson, who I had pretty high last time at 36. I won't say that I was super impressed with Simpson in terms of how it compares to a lot of the other guys, and they just moved ahead, so he moved down to 45. I had Dylan Jones last time at 37. I've moved him down to 44. Part of the reason that Dylan Jones was at 37 last time is I went, all right, well, the Thunder invested a first-round pick there in him, so let's give that a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. But then I watched him play, and I watched him on that team that didn't have a huge amount of guys, and I went, okay, my concerns with Dylan Jones were, he's a big fish, small pond. He's just immense usage, handling the ball, rebounding it, and it doesn't really make sense at an NBA level. And then everything that I saw from him as a subpar athlete as well in the Summer League made me go, I don't get it. I don't understand why he was picked in the first round. He didn't do anything to change my mind here. And that benefit of the doubt just evaporated a little bit. So he moves down to 44. And the same with AJ Mitchell, who I do like AJ Mitchell, and he was at 33 last time. I've moved him down to 43, again, mainly because some other guys look better. Mitchell was fine in Summer League. His numbers were okay, but he does lack athleticism. There's no clear, easy path for minutes on the Thunder, so he moved down. So he sits there in Tier 7 at number 43 alongside Dylan Jones. That is the end of Tier 7. So it's time for us to look at Tier 6. And that starting at Tier 6 is number 42, Adem Bona. He was at 41 last time, so it's basically the same. He is going to be a really strong backup center, maybe as early as next season, not 24-25, 25-26. Number 41 is Jonathan Mobo, who I dropped from 27. I loved Mobo's numbers coming out of San Francisco. I thought there was a real chance for him in Summer League, and then he just didn't really play. And when he was out there, I just was like, I don't know about this. Something just, again, we're not reading everything into Summer League, but it's a lot of it is talking, a lot of it is watching, a lot of it is seeing how a guy is used, and I just wasn't loving that, so I dropped him down. He's at 41, Jonathan Mobo. At number 40 is Tyler Kolek, who I had at 40 last time. Kolek looked great as a Summer League point guard. He still only averaged 9 points a game with low usage, and you would have wanted on that team with nobody there to do a little bit more than that. The passing, I think, is really good, but is there ever any upside to be anything more than a backup? Now, maybe he can turn into TJ McConnell best case scenario, which is great. That's a good fantasy player. I'm not really convinced of that. He didn't hurt his stock. He probably improved it. But again, some other guys jumped ahead. Number 39 is Cameron Christie, who I had at 38 last time. It's going to take some time for Christie, but he sort of did what I wanted him to do, and that's great. And number 38 is Terrence Shannon Jr. Now, I had Shannon at number 43 last time, so I have bumped him up. He was obviously picked in the first round, and he had some good moments in Summer League. But it's also one of those cases of just be really cautious of the highlight reel bias. He had a great first game. But look at his overall numbers. They're not superb. They don't stand out as anywhere near the best player in Summer League. He is 24, and I don't think that there is a clear path to a big role anytime soon, and then in 2 years' time, he's 26. So, yes, I moved him up. The scoring was really good, but nothing that I saw there made me go, man, I was completely off. He's going to be awesome, and he's going to put up big numbers. So I have moved him up, Terrence Shannon, and I get that a lot of people completely disagree with that. I still don't get it. I've got him at 38. Trey Alexander, I've moved up to 37. He was 42 last time. I thought he looked really good for Denver, and you go look at Denver's depth chart, the guard situation is really quite bad. They're going to have to be playing, it's obviously Jamal Murray, who can get hurt at any point. They're probably going to start Christian Brown, but maybe it's Russell Westbrook. Is Julian Strawther a 2? Not really. He's a 3, but maybe he has to play the 2. And Jalen Pickett was terrible. I could really easily see Alexander playing a rotation role really quickly if the coach wasn't Michael Malone. But I think he's got fringe starter upside long term. So I've got Trey at number 37, even though he was undrafted. We're still in Tier 6, and we'll come back to talk about Tier 6 in just a minute. Because if you wanted to go see some of these players in these dynasty tiers play, whether it is in the NBA or in the G League or whatever it is, well, GameTime is the app that will be able to help you out and get those tickets, because GameTime it makes getting tickets easy. It's also now an authorized reseller for Major League Baseball, an official ticket marketplace. They have got the zone deals where you can go in and just pick an area to sit. They pick the seat exactly for you, and that saves you money. They've got flash deals where they just alert you to something that's happening right now. Save money that way. If you want to see what you're going to see from the seat, whether it's at basketball or baseball or theater, comedy, musicals, whatever, they've got the views from your seat to be able to pick all that stuff out. So that's where GameTime comes in. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, we have got a few of these ones to go now. So we're continuing on in Tier 6. And at the start of Tier 6, it is Juan Nunez, who I had at 30 last time, but he won't be coming over, so that does dip him down. We didn't get to see him play, so he dips down. Number 35 is Bobby Klintman, who I had at 35 last time. I was very impressed with Klintman. I moved him up my actual draft board rankings, but the way the formulas work didn't actually get him super interested there. I probably, if we're just going to eyeball this and subjectively move him, he would probably go a little bit higher than some of these guys. Number 34 is Nikola Jurisic, who suffered that broken foot, which is going to cost him some time, but I was relatively impressed with him on the court. 33 is Ulrich Shomshi, who I had at 26 last time. I dropped him down just because he did look pretty lost defensively. I think that is going to mean it just takes a little bit of extra time to get there. Look, if he gets there, it's going to be great. But I do think that's going to take a little bit of extra time. So that's why he moved down. I moved Jalen Wells up pretty aggressively from 44 to 32. He's young. The shooting, I think, is going to be real, and that's a real skill. But I think there might be a couple of other things like maybe some rebounding, maybe a bit of usage upside as well. Number 31 is Ryan Dunn. I had him at 28, so he does drop down. The offense was as bad as advertised, and that's a terrible sign, meaning that I think overall his minutes upside ends up being capped. To finish off, Tier 6 is the Celtics and Baylor Shireman, who I had at 31 last time. He's at 30 here. He's totally reasonable as a player. He's got a good skill set in terms of rebounds, assists, and threes with solid shooting. The minutes are going to be a little bit hard to come by early on. Starting Tier 5, Keyshawn George, who I had at 32 last time. Much like with the Jalen Wells, he does his job. He shoots and they go in. That's great. First round pick as well with an opportunity for minutes early on. He starts Tier 5. This is one of the bigger rises, and that's AJ Johnson, who I had at 48 last time. He moves up to 28. The Bucks used him as a point guard. And while he's not going to play at all really this season, the flashes that he showed looked way better than what he was doing in the NBL. The body shape, the height was really good. The ball handling was impressive. So he gets a significant bump for me. He moves up to 28. Number 27 is Tristan Da Silva. I had him at 34 last time. I still don't really overrate Da Silva's Summer League. He is older. He shot the ball unbelievably well, which he would never do at that level again over a sustained period of time. And I'm not sure what else he brings outside of shooting. So is he like an older shooting prospect? Like, sure. Is it better than long-term George Niang? Probably. But I'm not going to overrate him based on that Summer League. At number 26 is Pacom Dadier, who I had at 29 last time. He is a long way away. The size of him impressed me. Some of his movement stuff was good. The numbers weren't particularly strong. It's going to take a long time, but that's okay. And number 25, and I had him 25 last time, is Jacoby Walter. He did nothing to beat the Gary Trent III allegations for me. That's fine. You can get the threes, and the fact that he's on a bad team means there might be opportunities for minutes, but overall, nothing there like super impressed me enough to change that too much. That's the end of Tier 5. Let's start Tier 4. And I've got Dalton Connect in Tier 4 at number 24. I had Connect 23 last time. He was totally fine at Summer League. I thought he was really good, but he didn't blow me away. He's older. I don't think there is big minutes coming immediately for the Lakers, and I'm not sure what else he's going to do apart from scoring. So he sits in that same area. I actually moved the Dildo Johnny Furphy up a spot. Him and Connect swapped. Furphy, I know, went way later in the second round. But what he did on that Pacers Summer League team and his age and his height gives him the bump. Easy stuff, I think. I had Kyle Filipowski at 22. He was 17 last time. I would have liked to see more defensive stats come from Filipowski through the Summer League setting. It didn't come. He looked all right. It's a little bit blocked in terms of minutes in Utah, so that's why he drops down there. Number 21 is Yves Missy. I had him at 22 last time. Not that he impressed me a huge amount, but the Pelicans didn't make any other moves for center, so there's going to be at least some minutes, I'm guessing, early on. Number 20, I know that he's out for the year, but Dayron Holmes, he was at 18 last time, so he drops a little bit, but this might be an opportunity for you to get him at a much later cost in a dynasty, and I do think that he's still going to be a really good player. Number 19, this guy jumped up one spot, is Jalen Tyson. Very impressive. Probably a long-term Karis LeVert replacement would be my guess there for him in Cleveland. All right, so let's go and round out Tier 4. And I do have Isaiah Collier there. He had some pretty good moments in Summer League. Some other issues that arose, obviously. Some of the shooting stuff was still really bad. He was better in Utah than he was in Vegas. I had him at 19 last time. So, because we saw some of the flashes of him being able to look like a real point guard. And then some of the struggles. So, he's still in Tier 4. He moves up one spot. That's it. Jared McCain is at 17 in Tier 4. He was at 16 last time. It's basically the same. I did move Cody Williams up. I had him at 21. He moves up to 16. Now, his Utah Summer League would have made me drop him down because he just went, oh, what is this guy doing? And part of the thing I always look at with young players is there any level of scalability? And he showed none of that. But then in Vegas, he did. And that's why I went, okay, I hadn't seen this really at Colorado. He was a low-usage player who was up and down with shooting numbers and defensive stats. And in Vegas, he was able to step up a lot of that stuff. And he was able to take on that larger offensive responsibility, which is a key thing. So he moves up from 21 to 16. He's right on the border between Tier 4 and Tier 3. And starting Tier 3, I've got Tyler Smith. Now, I was really high on Tyler Smith in the draft process. I still think he's going to be a useful player. But A, he fell a lot in the draft. So that means something. B, he went to a team where he's just not going to play. And those are two real negatives. So he went from 13 to 15 in my dynasty ranks. He sort of did what I wanted him to do. He shot the ball well. He shot the ball often. He didn't play enough for me, and that was a little bit annoying, but we all know that Dr. Rivers just isn't going to get him out there a huge amount, so it's going to just take time. I still believe long-term in the talent for Tyler Smith. At number 14, I do have Zach Edey. I would have loved to have seen him play in person, but injuries and weird stuff happening means we barely got to see him play in Summer League at all. His first game was really impressive. He was at 15 last time, moved him up to 14. There is a huge chance he starts immediately, but I don't think he's playing more than 25 minutes a night for Memphis. And some of my concerns are still there. What happens with that big usage drop that's going to come? It already came in Summer League. What happens when or if the defense is a real problem? He's got a role, but is it a long-term backup role or a long-term starter's role? There is enough there, though, to have him at 14. We didn't see Devin Carter play. The shoulder injury is going to cost him most of this season. That drops him down a little bit. I had him at 11. He sits here at number 13 now in Tier 3 for Dynasty. So we've got 12 guys to go. There are two more players in Tier 3, and that is Superman, Khalil Ware, who I've got at number 12, and Tijan Salan, who I've got at number 11. I had Salan at number 10 last time. I had Ware at number 14. So Ware was super impressive in Summer League. He has bumped up. I could easily make the argument that he moves into Tier 2 and into the top 7 or 8. Very easily. In fact, maybe I could have done that. But I'm not going to change all of my pre-draft evaluations by gigantic amounts, especially at the top of the draft. So if you wanted to move Ware ahead of Salan, I totally get that. Salan gets the bump because he's like 2 years younger, I think, than Ware. But Ware's going to probably impact earlier on. So, like, you're looking at that and eyeballing. Like, I probably would take Ware over Solan, and you could easily make an argument to take Ware over. Well, again, one of the guys that I've got, and you can see that on the screen at number 7 is Nikola Topic, who's just not going to play. So that's another one like Daron Holmes where there's a big discount there. This is like, again, trying to look forward 3 to 5 years. I think Topic is worth it, but if you wanted more of an immediate impact and wanted to take Ware ahead of Topic, like, go for it. Like, totally reasonable discussion to have Ware jump into tier 2 and jump as high as the top 8. I haven't gone and overreacted too much there because originally I liked him quite a bit. I had him top 12 in my original, like, actual pre-draft ranking boards. And I've moved him up, I think, to 10 on that overall draft valuation list. But for Dynasty leagues, because he is that 1 to 2 years older than some of these guys, he stays there at 12, Solan at 11. Now we go to tier 2. Bubbles Carrington, Carlton Carrington. Bubbles great at Summer League. Part of the reason that his numbers didn't pop coming through the translation process was really low defensive numbers. And honestly, the shooting numbers weren't superb. In Summer League, he looked like the best point guard that played, I would say. I don't know that he's going to get that role initially in Washington. I do think that Jordan Poole will start at point guard. But we saw some steals from Bub. And who knows whether that translates across. Steals do have a relatively decent correlation through Summer League to the NBA. So I've moved Bub up from number 12 to number 10. He is in tier 2. So just for clarity, tier 2 goes from 10 through to number 4. So if you wanted to take Bub all the way up to number 4, absolutely, totally reasonable. But for me at the moment, he sits at the back end there because I do worry about some of the long-term percentage issues and whether he's bringing more than just points and assists, because that might not be the case. Number 9 is Matas Buzelis. I had him at 7 last time. So you'd think, well, Josh, he actually played all right. Why have you bumped him down? It's more that just some other guys moved ahead of him. The shooting stuff, and I hope that it was a little bit of a mirage through the G League, it was still really bad. And that's a problem. His defensive stuff was fine. The re-signing of Patrick Williams, which direction they go, how they play him, there's some concerns there. They gave him huge usage in Summer League, which probably isn't realistic. So I wanted to see just better shooting and better scoring stuff from Buzelis, and I didn't. Steph Castle, I moved up from 9 to 8. I still have all of my concerns with him regarding shooting. He's one of these guys that there's a lot of people that latch onto him and think he's going to be this next star. I don't see it. Maybe he is. What I did do to bump him up was I loved the shot generation. Him able to create his own shot was key, which was a great thing. I don't think that his passing stood out, and he's also not going to play much as a point guard this season, and the shooting was still really bad, and that's a problem. But he has moved up, and again, he's in tier 2, which goes all the way up to number 4. I've already mentioned it, but Nikola Topic is at number 7. He was at 6 last time, but depending on where you're at in your Dynasty League, you might drop that even further because he's just not going to play. The rest of tier 2, number 6, we've got Zachary Ricochet, who I had at number 8. Ricochet, again, went missing a lot. He had a few solid moments. I adjusted him marginally, up from 8 to 6. Fine. Donovan McClingan, who I had at 4, I moved it down to 5. He blocked the shots, but some of the concerns about, like, does he have the motor to play more? What's going to happen offensively? None of that was answered. In fact, even more questions were asked, I thought. Yes, he's probably not going to take that many threes, but, I didn't see enough where he just dominated the league for me to push him higher or keep him the same. I moved Rob Dillingham from 5 to 4. His shot creation was strong. He had some iffy shooting numbers, but I thought his hands were quick. He is small, but I do think that level of creator, usage, assists, scoring player has a lot of value in fantasy. And again, we're talking a blend of points and categories. The top 3 stay literally exactly the same. The gaps change between them, but they are still all tier 1, and the top 3 are the same. Number 3 is Rugged Ronnie Holland. Dutchie was always there for me. He actually scored more points on a better true shooting than Matas Buzelis in Summer League. And I know most people wouldn't have thought that, but he did. He still has some brain fade decisions, and the shooting's a problem, but he sits there to me. Number 2 is Reed Shepherd. I almost moved Reed to number 1 overall on my board, but I didn't. I thought Reed was good, even though he didn't shoot well. The defense was great. He looked like a top prospect. And the guy that I've got at number 1 is still Alex R, and he looked bad. Offensively. Defensively, he did everything I wanted. He grabbed offensive rebounds. He blocked a lot of shots. He was able to switch. All that stuff was there, and that was part of the thing. His offense is further back than I thought, and the gap between him and Reed narrowed, and the gap between Reed and Holland widened. But they're all still in tier 1. If you wanted to take Reed at number 1, go for it. If you also don't think that Holland is in tier 1, he should be in tier 2, also completely understandable. Completely understandable. But I am keeping them in that similar spot for now. So Sar's at 1, Shepherd's at 2. Just flip them around if you want. But again, the defensive stuff from Sar was good. I still think there is offensive ability in there. It's just a little bit further back than we thought. And that's the end of talking about Dynasty rookie ranks. What I want you to do now is hit a thumb up to subscribe and let me know how everything was, what you agree with, what you don't disagree with in this, and let me know any results that you have in your Dynasty rookie leagues. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.